summer. I cannot believe it's already August 19th. It has just flown. So today, Dr. Stoltz is not going to be here for the meeting, so I'll be facilitating the meeting in her absence. But it's great to see you all. So what we'll do, Kati, could you start with a roll call, please?
Melissa, I don't know if it's just me, but you have a lot of feedback.
I'm in my office. I don't know what to do
Maybe
about
it's just
that.
me and I can go off and on.
Anybody else hearing feedback from me?
I'm
here in the
not hearing
office?
feedback.
I'll go out
Yeah.
and come back in.
Okay. All right, Kati, do you want to start the roll call?
Yes, absolutely.
Please and thank you. Thanks.
Of course. Dr. Matthew Conway. Dr. Michael Coyne.
Yep. Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Dr. Margie Gillis. Tim Healy.
Here. Hello, everyone.
Stephen Hernandez. Dr. Melissa Hickey.
Here.
Gary Highsmith.
Here.
Yasmin Ethier Vicente. Dr. Tamu Lucero.
Here.
Dr. Ashley, oh, sorry. Dr. Ashley Oldham.
Here.
Chandra Scott Brown. Dr. James Evidenchuk. Thank you, everyone. Roll call is now complete.
All right, thank you so much, Kati. So the minutes from the last meeting, that would have been in June 17, 2025. Kati, did we receive any corrections?
We did not.
Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 17th, please? Ashley has raised her hand as the motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have Gary, thank you. Is there anyone who needs to refrain who was not at the meeting?
Kim Healy. I wasn't here.
Kim? Oh, okay, thank you, Kim. Nice to see you here today. All right, so I'm calling for a vote for the minutes then. I'll approve, raise your hand, either virtually or in person. Okay, thank you very much. The minutes have been approved. Moving to the next, comments and insights. Kati, did anyone sign up for comments or insights?
Oh, no one signed up.
Okay, Ashley, you have your hand raised. Did you have something you wanted to share, or that was just from before? Okay, I was just checking. All right, well then this is wonderful. So the majority of the meeting time can be spent on the strategy extension work, the expansion from K3 to K12. So if you remember, in June of 2025, we met together as a council and had a conversation around the expansion, and a group was formed. I had asked if
Melissa,
there were
I'm
people...
having a hard time hearing. I'm going to try.
You okay? Tamu, is it better for you now? Oh, good, okay. All right, I think she's going to try coming out and then in again. So what had happened was we had decided that if anyone was interested this summer in creating a small work group to work on the expansion from K-12. And with this work, we also included the members of the center, which I will be introducing soon. The group who met a couple times this summer was Dr. Matt Conway, Executive Director Stephen Hernandez, Dr. Ashley Oldham, and Dr. James Zavadanchek. And then Dr. Stoltz joined us as well as someone from the community who is interested in the work and excited about the work. So we met, we had a conversation, and then we divvied up the work and dove in. The center members were very instrumental in this work. And what we'd like to do today is have the committee, which really is just me and Ashley right now, report out on what we did this summer, and then turn to all of you to review the strategy. We're going to do it in a modified, what's called a charrette protocol. And in this protocol, this is something that started with in the architectural community, where people would share their work and get feedback on it. So we're going to do something like this. It really takes in the philosophy that it is a shared piece of work, and it's a responsibility for all of us to move forward and provide feedback. We're going to start, Ashley and I will start with talking about the process and the procedure, the successes and the challenges, and how we move forward with the work, and asking a question to all of you about really how can we make this better? Is this fitting what we were thinking based on our last meetings? Remember how Dr. Gabriel came, talked to us about literacy beyond that K-3 realm. And during that portion, you'll be reviewing it, and we'll be taking down notes and feedback from the conversation. So I'm going to start with Dr. Oldham. Do you want to tell the group about our work, our thoughts, etc.? And I am going to ask the center staff to come forward into the meeting so that they can see your faces. And there we go. So I'll stop talking. Ashley, you want to talk?
So we had a really productive and exciting time, number of sessions where we worked to collaboratively identify, building off of the strength of the strategy document, what is common, when you extend 412, what do we really want to call out as something that is universal to all practitioners and leaders in that space? What is unique in a context of 4.6 or 6.12? And how do we create the document so it is most useful to its audience? Where can we refine our language and make sure we're bringing precision and clarity to the different aspects of it? So we met together with the staff from the center and the committee members to kind of workshop in a very collegial, collaborative space, language, what's missing, what do we need to add, building on each other's ideas, and trying to bring something back to this council to consider in support of K-12 learners in the state.
Thank you very much. And then what I'd love to do is just kind of go around and have the center folks introduce themselves. We could start alphabetically, which I guess would be Aaron Edwards. Either way. No, yep, we'll go with last name. Aaron.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here today. I am Aaron Edwards. I am an associate ed consultant within the center, and it was great to partner and collaborate on the work expanding the strategy.
Thank you. Cody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cody Fusco, another associate ed consultant within the center. It's nice to be with you all this afternoon. And again, it was nice to collaborate with you during the summer to do this work with the 412 strategy.
Thank you. Caroline.
Hi, I'm Caroline Messenger. I'm also an associate education consultant in the center. And it was my pleasure to work on the strategy with you all this summer.
Thank you. And Deirdre.
Good afternoon. I am the fourth of our center members with one missing, working in a similar role with my other three partners. It's nice to see you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, Candace has the exciting day of moving her her daughter into college. So that's always exciting and sad all at the same time. So thank you all for joining us. What I'm going to do now is show the council the strategy that was expanded to K-12 and share with you two of the challenges. One was we deliberately left it in the format that it was originally in. So please, when you're reviewing it, do not focus on any kind of ugly errors, because, for example, let me show you here. We know this needs to be reformatted, and our communications department can do that to add. Let's see how you see things are all over the place. Ignore that. Also, please know that we had a conversation as the group that the pictures will have to be updated to reflect K-12 students, because right now it's focused on K-3 and you just see our little ones pictured here. One of the challenges, another challenge for us other than the formatting, was also how do we break this up for the unique K-12 learning strategies and needs. And where we landed was to separate them by, as you'll see here, we kept the strategy pieces and yet we expanded them. And then what we did was we went and for this first one, we listed it as K-12, but then we broke it up K-3 and 412 to meet those unique needs. Because the other thing that we did was have a conversation about the audience. Who was really the audience of this document? And it was decided by the summer team that the audience would be administrators. So we had to change certain phrasing to acknowledge the audience of school and district administrators. Is there anything that I'm missing, center team or Dr. Oldham? All right, so with this, what we are asking you all to do is to take the time, and I will show you page by page the edits, or not so much the edits. What we found was when we started highlighting, we're like, all right, when we change things, we'll highlight it yellow. But then we noticed everything was being highlighted yellow and it just got too confusing. So we'll narrow in, or we'll focus on some specific things that were changed very much, while others were just kind of adjusted. One of the things that was changed too was to add a purpose statement to the beginning. What is the purpose of this document? So this was added. Then there was some clarification about each of the specific actions. So you'll see that as well, in addition to the K-12. So as you're looking at this, if you could look through it at the lens of, did we accomplish the goal of expanding it to K-12, as well as, is it palatable for the audience that we targeted, for that K-12 administrator audience? Any questions from all of you who are reviewing this document before we go through it? Any clarifications of what the process is going to be, or any questions you have to clarify what we did this summer? Gary.
Yeah, thank you. Could you just talk to me a little bit about why the audience is administrators as opposed to classroom teachers?
I'll try to remember that. Ashley, do we remember why we, or center team, do we remember why we were switching it? I believe it was Dr. Conway and doctors who are not here, and I don't want to talk for them. Dr. Zavadanchuk. Caroline, you remember?
Yes. In looking at who was most likely going to be implementing these strategies and creating the culture around reading, we determined that it would really be literacy leaders and administrators, that teachers would really not be pulling together district teams and school teams, that was really the job of an administrator. So we focused the audience on them, as they're the ones that would set up the systems, the structures. They're the ones that would be working on the culture and the climate, things like that.
Thank you, Caroline. Did that help answer?
I asked a question, it was answered.
Okay.
So I do appreciate that.
Okay,
I don't
thank
necessarily,
you.
I have sort of a different perspective, but the question was answered.
Oh, and feel free. Oh, here, Matt. Matt said he's here. Oh, yes. Kati, could you let him in? Perfect timing. We'll put him right on the spot. And he's in. Perfect. Hi, Dr. Conway.
Hello.
So, did you hear the question?
I did hear the question. Yeah, I've been in the meeting. It's for some reason, when I logged in, it said only select participants could use their mic and their camera. So I said, well, I guess I'm not one of those select participants. But anyway, I did hear the question and from Superintendent Highsmith. So it was discussed. My recollection was, in reviewing the K-3 document, when you looked at the language and the wording and who that was for, we had that discussion. And then we had a discussion, do we want to change that approach, or would it be a separate tool and document that would come out of this for teachers? And we talked about combining them with links to the teacher one. Once we come up with, more of the boots on the ground classroom level tool that could come out of this, but that this one really was driving policy. So it was for legislators, administrators, coaches within schools to drive strategy and policy that would then support the teachers. But then we discussed our work here is just starting with this, and that the next level of work is how do we put this together for professional learning to support teachers in this transition. And then come back to this and link to those documents from this. This needs to be an ongoing, evolving, but live document, similar to our district strategy plans today, and how we build them within our district, but that this would be then linked to those next documents for classroom level.
Thank you, Dr. Conway. And you're reminding me too, as a result of this work, what we've done at the center is already start to do those companion documents that we can then link to this. And I'm going to call on Caroline again. Caroline, you want to talk a little bit about that other document, and then we'll return to this one. Did Kim have to jump out? I just noticed that both her mic and her camera are off. Kim, are you still able to access the meeting?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Okay. I just wanted to check. Okay, good.
Sorry, Melissa, my audio cut out. I just heard other document.
Could you explain a little bit, because Dr. Conway reminded me that we had talked about having these other documents that were supportive to the work, and you've already started working with our center colleagues on one of these documents. Do you want to speak a little bit about that one? That's much more geared toward the teachers.
Sure. Yeah, we spent several months developing a document on content area literacy and strategies that teachers can use in their classrooms. It is guided by Scarborough's Rope. So there is a section that starts with word recognition for young readers. And then within that section, there's also word recognition for adolescent readers that relies on research with adolescent students and how foundational skills can also be reinforced and used by secondary teachers when encompassing technical and complex terms within subject areas. The second part of the document deals with language comprehension. So there are strategies there that are appropriate for K-12 that can be used with students to help inform and improve their literacy skills. And that document is currently on its way for review, but it's really geared toward teachers and best practices that they can use when teaching children how to read.
So see, so much of our work is guided by your suggestions and your ideas of what is needed in the field, and we so appreciate that. So we decided to keep the document focused on these conditions that are critical, but once again, we added some words around it. So we kept to the idea of this, these coherent systems and structures, focusing on that classroom instruction that's grounded in science, the interventions for individual needs that are tied to assessments, the ongoing assessment practices. And in our conversations, we found that there is some overlap, and yet they're all very related to one another and symbiotic. We also talked about the importance of coaching and professional learning and coaching teachers in their practice. And then also the authentic family engagement. So this went way beyond just finding everywhere it said K3 and changing the words to K-12. Dr. Conway's district really provided a lot of guidance to us in the way of documents. We were able to use the documents and language from that to help here in the strategy. So when we go to our first specific action here, this is the one where we kept some K-12 because we felt like it was an umbrella for all, but then also distinguishing between the K3 and the K4. So I'm going to give you some time. I did make this larger, but you should be able to make it larger on your screen too if you can't see this. So I'm going to give you some time to read this. And then if you have any questions or comments, you can just unmute and share out. And you can also tell me if you need me to scroll down so you can see the K3. If you're ready for me to scroll down and show more K3, thumbs up, or either virtually or physically give me a sign. Any questions or comments so far? No? Scooch down then. We got into a lot of conversations about specific terms and decided to define them. So on the bottom, we did add some words to our definitions, which I will share as well. This was something that we had a big conversation about the literacy, school-based literacy teams, with their purpose being supporting and actualizing the literacy systems, practices, and processes initiated by the district level. So they're not working out on their own. Everything is aligned within the district. And as we're going through, Ashley, Matt, if you can think of any of the conversations we were having or anything, please feel free to chime in. If you're ready for me to advance down, can you, somebody thumbs up? Thumbs up, okay. We also tried to balance the bullets so that one grade level didn't have like 20 bullets and the next one have 3 or 4. And to try to ensure that they were aligned down. Once again, just ignore this editing of different size bullets. We'll get that fixed. Here's where you can start to really see the shift into that adolescent literacy. So these are all the bullets under just that one condition, the coherent, sustainable systems and structures. So what systems and structures does a district and school need to have in place to ensure that kids are getting what they need and teachers are getting what they need for literacy? To support literacy practices that are aligned to research and evidence. Any questions on that one? All right, we're going to move along to the next. As you can see, we decided not to do an overarching. We felt like this one could be broken up into a K3, 4, 5. Here you can see a little better being on one page, how the alignment, prioritize implementation, prioritize implementation. I'm going to switch it up a little bit for this page and go back to the protocol. So I'm going to ask those who were not part of the work group this summer, if you all could take a few minutes now to have a virtual conversation around what you're seeing. And the question that we posed, one of the questions was, we had this task of taking this K3 strategy and making it K12. So the question is, how did we do, right? Were we able to do this? And how does it look to all of you? So if you could have a conversation now, if you all could unmute, we who worked on it this summer will be sitting back, listening and reflecting as you're talking. And then you can ask us some questions after. But if you all could have a conversation first about what are you seeing here and your feelings around that expansion K-12, that would be great. So I'm going to mute for this. Basically, what are you noticing and wondering? So those who did not work it on it this summer, what are you noticing and wondering here?
So should we just unmute and just speak?
Yes, please.
Okay.
You all can have a conversation.
I just want to, the only thing I'd say is I would like to spend some more time with it because I'm struggling to read it on the screen and I didn't read it before the meeting. So I don't really have any comments, but would like the opportunity, at a later time, hopefully.
I guess I wonder if there's given any thought to differentiating between larger middle schools and larger high schools and smaller middle schools and smaller high schools, because just organizationally, for example, having literacy teams at a high school with 2,000 students is different than having a literacy team at a high school with, say, 600 students or 400 students. So I'm just wondering whether there's anybody thinking about the differences in the size of the schools.
That's a great, the size of the school didn't come up, Gary, but we did look at another further breaking down the grade levels. So the grade bands, you go a K3, 4, 4-6, 4-8, and then 9-12. But we did not discuss size of school that I recall.
And I only bring that up just simply because it's harder to pull people from their day-to-day work in a school with 2,500 students or 3,000 at Danbury or whatever number of students that you have. And it's different when you got sort of one or two high schools in a town and there's 250 students at each of those high schools. So it's just a different animal you're looking at.
I couldn't agree more, other than even in a small, Derby's a small school, 300 plus per school, all of them. But even here, pulling for it is difficult because remember, every time we pull, it's like it's like your kids could be absent. So we talk about chronic absenteeism. The amount of times we pull for professional learning adds to that. It's not documented as the students being absent, but when there's a sub in the room or anything else, the regular teacher isn't there. It's difficult, whether it's in district or out of district. Even, and I've had this discussion with State Department. When we first, started rolling out the literacy support back in 2013-14, it was one of my first conversations with, the number of days alone that we're pulling teachers to go somewhere to get the professional learning they need to get. I get all that. It takes away from learning in the classroom.
All right. And Matt, sort of add on top of that, that some of us still have positions that aren't filled and probably won't be filled during the course of the year. It just, I'm wondering.
We just lost two coaches due to loss of funding here. Right, I'm right with you. Yeah.
Right. I'm just wondering whether it should serve more as an advisory group than sort of meeting monthly. It just strikes me as challenging.
I was going to jump, say that I know it's difficult to do this, but I like that this document is designed so that you can see the consistency all the way through K3 through 12, and that that's not easy to do, and you could easily sort of have separate documents. But I do think one of the strengths of having it all together is that it shows the through lines of some of these big ideas around leadership and effective supports across the grade levels, and that they are broken out by sometimes these grade bands. Also communicates that there are significant differences too. But just from sort of seeing the structure of this, I kind of like having it all, or I'd see some strengths in having it all in one document. One quick question: has the K3 components of this also been updated, or is this existing from a previous document?
So initially we started with just the original, but then we found that we did have to update some of the K3 stuff as well. Just the terms, some of the words we were using based on the conversations we were having. So for example, adding the Connecticut Core Standards as a link, adding the model curriculum created by the academic office as a link.
I'm
So,
wondering
yes.
if that's something that would also be helpful to talk about at some point. Just personally, I'm interested in how the core curriculum intersects with the approved curriculum models, and why that's in some bullets and not in other bullets. So this is probably not the time for that, but I was looking back to kind of link on some of these things for K3, but I saw that maybe these aren't in the original document.
Correct, exactly. We did update some of these, correct. And too, I know I'm kind of breaking protocol here, but I think it would be really neat, Superintendent Highsmith, what we could do is, using this as a strategy, highlight districts or interview districts of all different sizes, various RESC areas, are they rural, are they suburban, and see how are they doing a model like this? What are they doing adjustment wise to address that they have bigger schools or smaller schools, or they have a superintendent who's part-time and nobody else. So I think that would be really interesting to explore and highlight, and we can share those stories on our website, have them linked to this document as we had suggested during the work group time. I think that there's a lot that we could do around that. Kind of having this as our shining star, but then how have people taken this and made it work for them? Oh, look, Irene Parisi's here. Go ahead, Irene.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Melissa. I think you're kind of starting to say what I was thinking. This is the desired state, as you said, the shining star or North Star, right? This is, and you've said it throughout too, evidence aligned. So there's research that backs this up. And so I think if we start to have these bends or these if this, then that in this document, to Dr. Coyne's point, we might diminish the integrity of some of the consistency. So I'm thinking, how do you build from this based on the context of districts? Should we spend more of our time like having the desired state out there and then allowing for the districts to take stock of their own context and then thinking about how might we reach this desired state? May not be in year 1, it may not be year 2, but ultimately building out a plan to get to the desired state. So I'm just sharing that there could be a challenge if we try to have the differentiation based on size and scope and so on. We might diminish the integrity of it. It's just a thought. It's a wondering. I do appreciate what's being shared. But having been there on other types of projects and certainly from a district perspective at central office, it's good to come out of the starting gate with any particular project, knowing what is the desired state and that's backed by research.
Yeah, I just want to be clear, right? I'm not suggesting that this document speak to every eventuality that could possibly happen, every design, every size school. It's not what I'm suggesting. Perhaps as a result of this, districts with bigger high schools can get together on their own outside of this sort of structure and talk about challenges towards implementation. But what I am saying that if you have urban areas, you are more likely than not to have larger high schools. And there are certain challenges that come with having larger high schools that oftentimes get underappreciated when we're talking about how we improve instruction. So I'm not saying that the document should speak to that. I'm just saying sort of pragmatically in terms of implementation, there has to be some conversations with districts that have middle schools and high schools that are large. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you. That makes perfect sense. Thank you for that, Dr. Heisman.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thanks. Awesome. So moving to the next, and then what we can do too is in one of our future meetings, we can have Irene come and share with some of the academic staff about the model curriculum, and you can actually see it, feel it, have experience with it. So I'm going to write that down as a next step also. Thank you. And then moving on to the next, while keeping in mind this flow of the K3, 4, 12, how is this feeling? How is it looking? What are you thinking? And as you know, we did start to add links to those documents the state currently has, so that you could see what this could look like eventually when we have more documents to populate into here based on our conversations of need. When you've completed your review, feel free to undo your mic, share your thoughts. We are taking notes once again about any comments or ideas that you have, questions. Here you'll see some of that overlap that I was talking about, where you have your assessment practice, but then your assessment drives what you're doing and putting in front of students. So regarding interventions and instruction, we also had conversations. It was very deep this summer. We were having some deep conversations. We had a conversation around the whole, I'm sure you've heard this, right? About how kids learn to read in the lower grades and then read to learn in the upper. And we were saying, we're not sure we agree with that because they really should be reading to learn throughout. So there's no reason why your K3 should not be reading and learning from the information presented. It's important that they have this knowledge about science and social studies in their world that they're gaining from their text. So we try to incorporate those kinds of things as well, as you'll see throughout, about how important it is that they are comprehending what they're reading and learning from what they're reading. K-12, the entire K-12 spectrum. And that the older students, they really need these materials that are age appropriate. So some students are not reading on grade level, as we know. And our adolescent readers, if they're given a text that looks like a baby book, they're going to shut right down. So that's why we said here to invest in those age appropriate materials. So any questions or comments or wonderings or thoughts around this assessment practices? Dr. Conway, Dr. Oldham, anything you all want to say before I move to the next page? Or you said, okay. All right. All right, moving to the next one. We're about halfway through. So this is what happens after the assessment. So what kind of this personal intervention is provided? Sketch that up. Is there anyone who needs more time with this page? I'm just looking at the time here. Okay, I'm gonna scooch down to the last few bullets of that. All right, moving on to the next one, which is the professional learning. This was another thing that we added here about the actions are presented without implying order or priority, because we had talked about, should we number these? So that if you're a district leader, or you're someone who's really using this document a lot, you can say, all right, this is number 1 under action, the professional learning action. But then we decided that that might look like it's actually an order of relevance or importance. So decided to go with the bullets. Going on to the next view here. The last of this area. Okay, moving down to last but not least, families. Just marking with yellow. I just noticed that our tense wasn't aligned there. Here you can see the bullet, how this is with the content area teachers, which is a different, obviously, than the K3. K3, one teacher tends to teach all subjects. As you go up in the grades, they tend to start having specialties and content areas. Some places that starts 5th grade, 4th grade. Other places it may not start until your traditional middle school, 6, 8. Dr. Hughes?
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, that was one of the things that I was wondering as you were going through the separate sections. I didn't see a lot in the 4 through 12 regarding the disciplinary literacy development, professional development assessment there. And I don't know to what extent that was maybe over generalized purposefully because of the nature of the document, or if it does needs a little bit more attention. I just know once you get up into the upper areas, a little bit more attention to that is needed within the content areas.
So Caroline, I keep calling on Caroline. Caroline, you want to talk about that, the disciplinary and the content literacy and the documents to come?
Sure. So right now, the center is developing disciplinary literacy guidance documents for each area. Math, science, social studies, even English, and the arts, in order to tailor the information for specific disciplines. I think in this document, we purposefully weren't calling out disciplinary literacy because we have these documents coming out to support that work, but also because there's a lot of discussion right now in research around how far does disciplinary literacy go. And there's some very good conversation around the fact that disciplinary literacy does actually start in the lower grades as teachers begin to work with students on nonfiction texts, whether they be science, social studies, anything to do with the arts, mathematical word problems. And that conversation is still ongoing and still emerging. And I think I thought it was prudent to see how that unraveled before we revised these bullet points to incorporate it either strategically in 412 or to expand that concept into K3. So you will see some reference to disciplinary literacy, I think, later on in the document or earlier on in the document. I'm sorry, and to my recollection, we did refer to disciplinary literacy a couple of times. But I don't think that we hyper focused on it.
All right. Thank you, Caroline.
To that extent.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows, that was not a Planet question for Caroline to respond to. So.
Here you can see some of the references on the side.
Yeah, we talk about across disciplines, and then right here in that second bullet, it talks about integrating disciplinary literacy concepts.
And what you're hitting on too is how, once again, so many of these overlap. We did add this definition around adolescent literacy.
Dr. Hickey, I believe Dr. Lucero has their hand raised.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, missed that. Go ahead, Dr. Lucero. You're not unmuted though. Could you, if you can't unmute on your side, we can try unmuting on our side.
Am I unmuted now?
Beautifully,
Okay,
thank
great.
you.
So I'm wondering where pre-K lies in this, given that we need to start educating, especially special education students at age 3, why that was not included. And I'm thinking the same thing about our 18 to 22-year-olds, that probably it would be their last chance to really be able to learn reading strategies before leaving K-12 education.
So what we had talked about before as a group was that we would start with K-12 and then expand and then continue to expand it. So working down like the birth to 3 or birth to 5, we want to work very closely with our partners in the Office of Early Childhood. And right now we have them engaged in some other projects, and they're working on the finalizing their updated early learning. What is the term, Erin? I'm drawing a blank here.
Oh.
Their early learning and development standards.
Thank you. So they have a lot on their plates right now. Dr. Conway, did you want to say something?
I guess
said ELDS. That's all. That's the terminology that she just gave you. Early learning development standards.
Thanks.
And we did discuss the pre-K piece. The legislation is specific to K-12. Not that we can't, but we've actually done similar to what we're doing with the document. while we're going up in grades from 3, we've also gone down to pre-K with the resources as well. So, but this document, though, is specific to the legislation and the goal for the implementation council that was given, not that we can't go back and revise that.
Absolutely.
I think you all are missing my point, so I'll make it one more time. K-12 is responsible for our students starting at age 3, and now we're responsible for students from 18 to 22. So I'm just saying, I'm not sure if that was a conversation because the responsibility is ours. That's the only point I'm making, that it is the responsibility of K-12.
Yeah, and we're fine with expanding it. Would you be okay if we move forward with the K-12 first?
No, I'm
And
just
then-
saying, I think we should ask the question as a council is,
Oh.
because we are responsible at K-12 for students starting at age 3 that are special education, I think it would be irresponsible for us not to know our responsibility for those students. We're required to keep the students until age 22. I want to know what our responsibilities are.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I do, and I love that reflection on this. And while we did discuss the pre-K, to my recollection, we did not discuss the 18 to 22, which could look different in terms of the supports necessary and the strategies that we employ. So I love it.
Right, and Dr. Conway, you are reminding me too, you're right, you know, legislatively, the center is K-3, right? And some of the legislation does address that we make these documents K-12, or with the plan, birth to 12. And I hear what you're saying, Dr. Lucero, that the reality is that districts, we in education, have children of all ages with whom, and even families, you know, it's our responsibility to be working with families and educating, like we talk about here, the whole family, and really empowering and lifting the whole family in the process. So
yeah, Melissa,
yeah,
I am
hear
really,
what you're saying.
Yeah, but I'm not saying what you just described. I'm describing that the requirements of K-12 is at age 3, if you're a special education student, you must be educated by your K-12 environment. So this is very different than I just want to dip down and start to work with birth to 3. That's not our responsibility currently. So I want to be very clear what my concern is. Not, it'd be great if we were doing the, you know, all of the stuff to help every kid at every age until everyone is reading at grade level. But I'm talking about the responsibility of special education students.
Got it. All right, thank you. So we have 5 more minutes for this discussion, and the intent for showing today was to do exactly what we're doing. Bring up questions, comments, clarifying questions around what was created based on the task we were given this summer. So what I'm going to ask for Dr. Conway, Dr. Oldham, and center staff and I now to do is reflect on what did we hear, and what are some things or perspectives that we had not thought about, and observations of things that were not taken into consideration, and what furthered our thinking, and what we can do for moving forward as a group. That'll be a group conversation. So just now asking those who worked on it this summer, what ideas today were presented that furthered your thinking, or perspectives or things that you had not thought about previously?
I think for me, the conversation around the complexity, we talked a lot about the complexity of high school. So to Superintendent Highsmith's, I think probing and wonderings around making sure this guidance document sits both in being a evidence aligned and being what we're all aspiring to, and it's giving me just more to think about as we think about those points. How do we 9-12? This work is really hard at 9-12, and I think when we were meeting this summer, we talked about this a lot. The call is there to do this really well, but I think just hearing from others has, reminded me, and I want to go back through and sit with these points a little bit more and make sure that what we're putting out is feeling like it is in that place of evidence alignment, but also really speaking to the unique context of high schools in the complexity that high schools are and the diversity of high schools that we have in the state. So that was really important for me. And I think Dr. Lucero's piece, as a special educator, your point is really, and that wondering and that line of questioning was really good for me to hear and think about. And how do we make sure that, and we talked a lot over the summer about special ed, and there was a lot of wordsmithing within this document that we really wanted to make it clear that this work is the work of kids with IEPs without, and I think that your point, is really something that I look forward to reflecting more on and thinking about how can we make sure that we take that charge really seriously, and this document can be supportive. So thank you for those.
No, I certainly agree with you, because I just think too often when we talk about special education students, we often forget about the ends of the special education students that we're responsible for. And they're probably who needs this the most, and we don't even consider it, because maybe if we were doing the pre-K component of it, the 3 to 5 better, then maybe some of the issues wouldn't exist. And I'm specifically talking about students who were identified at that early age.
Right. And I think
we always have to remind ourselves of who we're talking about. We're not talking about the typical 3 to 5-year-old. I'm talking about the student who has already been identified and therefore probably needs specialized, I'm not going to say maybe, needs specialized reading instruction. And so we need, and if that's not included anywhere in this, I think it would be a misstep.
Yeah.
I did, if I could, I did go back, and actually one of our goals, in our 3 goals for the Implementation Council for 24 through 26, goal number 2 is identifying ways to expand K-3's literacy strategy to include birth to 3 and grades 4 through 12. So the birth to 3 piece is actually in goal number 2. It just has not been, not just part of this document yet.
Matt, I'll remind you, I'm not talking about birth to 3, because we're not responsible for birth to 3. If we're speaking about, if you're talking about a new topic, I don't disagree with you. But if you're talking about the specific concern that I'm bringing up, I'm talking about the students we're responsible for. We're not responsible for birth to 3.
In this Implementation Council is, according to the document.
I get that, but it's not the point that I'm making. Not the point that I'm making, though. So I just want to be very clear about the point that I'm making, because people keep taking us back to birth to 3, which I think is great, but I want to be clear about what my concern is.
Yeah, and I hear that. And I'm particularly also interested in that, 18 to 22, and thinking about that we have to be centering that our literacy instruction, we continue to teach readers, and we teach reading, and we work at it, and there are different, that the science of reading is there, and then we need to be guided by these high leverage practices. So I appreciate you centering that.
And it's our last opportunity, right? It's a great,
deserve a great teacher of reading. Absolutely. As they're in whatever their transitional program, and reading needs to be centered there. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And Ashley, I can appreciate your point about the high schools. I would only add that in most high schools, you're not likely to find anybody who has the ability to teach literacy skills. They're English teachers. They're not literacy teachers. So when it comes to high school and literacy, unless you have people dedicated to doing that, nobody's going to have the skill to do it. That's the concern.
Which my argument would always go back to what I probably bring up every time that I'm on these meetings, is that this is a pre-service program also that needs to be looked at, because if that's not the requirement of graduating people who are able to teach reading at every level, then it's a problem. And if we're going back and we are looking at the programs that currently exist and they don't include reading as part of teaching reading instruction as part of the program, and not just a one class, but intensive training that we know that it takes to be able to really train someone to be a teacher of reading, especially after third grade. I think that it's a bigger issue that we need to talk about if we're really talking about solving this problem. If this is just often what we do in education, which is just put something pretty up and then say, see, we did do something, then yeah, this is great. But if we're really looking at solving a problem, if we're not looking at it at the same time, I'm not saying it can only be done there, because we have a lot of educators who's already in our schools. And so we need to continue to work with them. But I do think we would be, again, making a misstep if that's all we paid attention to.
Well, thank you all so much. This has been really a great conversation and very much appreciated. Thank you for those who donated their time this summer to create what we were looking at today and really using for our springboard for conversation. You know, I found it really enlightening in many ways. My head is always thinking about next steps and what can we at the center and the State Department do to help our stakeholders across the board. And, you know, I just so appreciate you all really leaning in and giving your thoughts and opinions today. So thank you. So what we'll do is we'll go back and look at this through some different lenses and then meet with all of you again. I am sorry I had to stop the conversation, but I do want to get to our next agenda item, which I think is really important, that Yasmin brought up in a question that she has. Thank you, Kati. So before I do that, thank you again so much. Really appreciate the conversation today. And, you know, TAMU, the center, we are very dedicated to making change and we just don't walk the walk, right? Or talk the talk, we walk the walk. So thank you so much for everything you all shared once again.
Melissa, I never said the center in anything that I said. I said that if we as a collective, we as educators are going to do this. I just want to be clear that I've never mentioned the center.
I know, but I'm just telling you, you know how devoted we are. And
I don't think it's just the center. I think everyone's devoted to education. And so I just think that we've got to really call it out there. If we're really going to start to make these changes and these differences, it's not just the center that needs to do it. It's all of us who need to do it.
Nice. I like that. Thank you. Thank you. That is important. Thank you. All right, moving to our last topic today on our agenda is the meeting time discussion. And Yasmin, thank you so much for bringing this forward. Did you want to kind of talk about what you were thinking?
I was wondering if we could just push it back to go 1:30 to 3.
You know, it's really important for us to have teachers here on the council, and we appreciate that your district has allowed for you to have this time. So if we could have a conversation around this, the 1:30 to 3, is there anyone, I mean, we don't usually vote on things like this. It's a more of a consensus conversation. So I'll just put it out there. Is there anyone who has concerns or difficulties in their schedule with a 1:30 time? If you do, could you just speak? Because I can't see everyone right now because of the PowerPoint. So if you could just unmute if you have a problem or issue. Oh, thanks, Kati. All right, well then, I think that was
Wait,
simple
hold on.
enough.
Me,
Oh,
I'll just say to you this, meetings
Yeah.
on the half hour are weird to me. And they're sometimes challenging to get to because you're sort of in the middle of one meeting in the beginning of another. It just
Okay.
gets a little weird. This 2 o'clock time seems to work for me. And but the council is much bigger than I am, but I don't have an issue with the 2 o'clock time at all.
So what if we changed it to 1 o'clock? What, a
That works
1
better.
o'clock? Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
A
think
1
that-
to 3? Is that what we're saying?
I think that'd work.
Is there anyone who would have a problem with 1 to 3? Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you very much. We will adjust that. Yasmin, thank you for bringing up your concern. We very much appreciate it. And once again, it was really important for us to have a teacher, at least one, here on the council to express your opinions and your thoughts. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Can I
Um,
just ask a quick question?
Sure.
You said 1 to 3.
Yeah, I was
Is
gonna
that
say that.
correct, or 1 to 2:30?
Oh, 1 to 2:30, because I
1 to
did what
2:30.
Gary
Okay.
said. I went with a round of 2 hours.
Okay.
You're right. I apologize. Thank you. 1 to 2:30. 1 to 2:30.
Could you put that slide up of the days again, just so I could take a picture so I could put
Sure.
it in for the my
Well,
time?
yeah, Kati will do that. She'll send the invites. She'll adjust. Being the clerk of this, she's amazing. So just to clarify, 1 to 2:30 on October 14th, December 16th, February 24th, March 17th, May 19th, and June 16th. Beautiful. All right.
Is it possible to just put an asterisk next to the June meeting? A June 16th meeting may or may not be the end of the school year.
Sure.
And that might be difficult for us to get to. I can speak for myself. Sure, for
Absolutely.
Matt and Tamu might be the same thing.
What we could do too is we can talk like in March or May about that last date as well and see if it'd be better to adjust it. Or if it's, yeah, if we need to adjust it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Maybe just because it's the first meeting, maybe we can all go look at our calendars of spring break and all the different things that are across most school districts. And if we have any major conflicts with several people on the council, we might make adjustments sooner than later so that
Sure.
it is, we're able to fix it before we get there.
Sure. So please review the dates. And if conflicts, I'm just writing this down, notify Kati. And then if she finds that multiple people on multiple days, then we will adjust at a meeting. Sound like a plan?
Mhm.
All right. Because once again, if we do it to everyone, that constitutes a meeting, and we're trying not to do that, right? So, all right, thank you. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? We have 4 minutes. Thank you once again. Thank you for your time this summer. Thank you for the thought you put into today and the work we put into today, your questions, your concerns, your thoughts. It only makes everything better and stronger, and that's so important. So thank you. Thank you to the center staff. I have to say I am so fortunate and blessed to work with such an amazing team. We have our sister agency here also, which is the Office of Dyslexia and Reading Disabilities, ODRD. What we could have them do is come and present their competencies. Those competencies are around the Ed Prep. So we could hear about what was approved for all ed prep programs to now have to be teaching regarding reading. If you're interested in that, could you just show me quick with like thumbs up? All right, beautiful. And then also we talked about the model curriculum. If you're interested in seeing something around that, could you do some thumbs up too, please? For those who don't know. Okay. All right. So we do have a majority around that too. Okay. So those are two things that we'll put on agendas for moving forward.
Melissa, I'm sure you often do this, but I'm wondering is if we
Right.
could get those documents ahead of time so that we're able to review them, so that when they're discussing them, we have a better understanding of them.
Meeting. Yeah, today I didn't put that out because it was a draft and I didn't want people to get confused because it was.
No, I'm
You saw,
talking
like-
about the two documents you just said that they were coming to present.
Oh, sure, we could do that. We could
Yeah.
have them send out like the
Yeah, not the
PowerPoint.
document from today, the two
Oh,
that you
yeah,
just
yeah.
spoke about.
Sure. Yeah, I really wanted our conversation to be around the content today, not so much about the ugly
Melissa,
formatting.
I don't know. I'm not
I know.
faulting you. I was
No,
just,
no.
you asked about this particular thing that we were just talking about, and
Yeah.
that's why I mentioned these two things. I would have mentioned that before if I wanted to see it ahead of time. It was these two new documents.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, no problem. Yeah, sure, no problem. That'd be great.
Great, thank you.
So the model curriculum and ODRD, perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. This was amazing, wonderful. So appreciate each of you. Have a lovely afternoon and we'll see you at 1 o'clock on the next meeting, whatever date that is, October, I think we said. All right, take care.
Thank you.
Bye, and thank you.